Welcome, everyone, to Prop It Up, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. We are here to get your weekend started. Joining me, as always, every week, Andrew McInnis and Mid-Major Matt, my fellow prop masters, the prop gods. Gentlemen, we're coming off Thursday Night Football. We got World Series tonight. We got NFL, college football. It is a loaded weekend. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Andrew, how did Thursday Night Football go for you? Do I need to get the rant alert going?
Yeah, good to see you guys. We don't have to get the rant alert section up or banner, but when it comes down to it, look, I've been debating for the past month and a half as I progress and get into these props, and we've been doing this show. Do I go high volume with them or do I not? And I talked about it with you guys pre-show, post-show. We can go on and on about it, but last night's one of those nights where the one play I give out to clients as the prop is the sweatiest one ever, loses by a half. And then, I had a bunch of different ones, including the Daniel Jones over rushing yards. I had over in punts, over in sacks, certain players over in receptions. Those all cash. So I care a hell of a lot about my clients, and I just feel poorly the fact that I decided to be very low volume, give out just the one. And that one was the over and pass completions for Daniel Jones. And the funny thing is, if that game didn't end the way it did, there was certainly going to be at least one more pass completed to get me to 21. It's just what a game that was. I had somebody message me and say, "Hey man, like how's the game going? I'm at work. I can't be watching." I was like, "The game's a mess. It's just a joke of a game, but we're all watching it. Sports fans, sports bettors." And unfortunately, I handicapped the game, guys. And Matt, I'm interested to hear what you have to say about this because I handicapped the game with the Eagles being up and this team, the Giants, having to play down, throw the ball consistently. What happened on the second last drive of the game? I think it was 6 straight run plays for the New York Giants. I mean, that was not part of my handicap. That was not part of my over and pass completions for Daniel Jones. And he reaches 20. I needed 21.
Matt, of course, we're saving the best for last, you being the Eagles fan. So how did let's separate this. How did last night's game go for you, A, on a professional level, and B, as an Eagles fan?
Well, first of all, I'd like to be referred to as first place, Matt, please. My team is in first place. I mean, it still counts. They're going to win this division. Doesn't matter how. First place, Matt. Thank you. I actually had a really good day yesterday. I did go on presidential address on Wednesday and say Jalen Hurts was going to score. And that play in the 9-yard line where he was in, I'm like, oh, baby, this is going to happen. Because even if he threw it, I'd say, well, he threw the pass. He did score technically, but of course, they ran that little option play. With regards to the props, I went 2-0. I had the under on Boston Scott rushing yards, and which was good because remember you had to shop around because there was 52.5, there were 49.5, things like that. And then I had the over on the Daniel Jones rushing yards, and I was worried about that. And it's funny, I tweeted at a guy who I follow who's a Giants fan. I said, why aren't they using his legs more? And then, of course, he breaks off the 80-yard run, and then so that prop hits. And then, of course, on WagerTalk today, I gave out the under for Boston Scott carries, which hit barely as well. So it was a good day, and the Eagles won, so I'm happy today.
Interesting note, too, if you bet teasers, every single side of a teaser won yesterday.
Oh, did it? Oh, that's right. Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Of course, that's my free play I tweet out on the teaser.
Rest in peace, everyone that had Daniel Jones to rush for a touchdown when he was running.
Oh my God, there was a sniper.
Tripped and fell. Matt, you had that one. You had Daniel Jones over rushing yards, as did I. So I think that could be one that could be hitting the rest of the year. He gets one of those off every single game. I think he's been over 40 yards 4 times so far. So keep an eye on Daniel Jones. All right.
Did you see that thing, Andy? Apparently he matched Tyreek Hill's top speed of the year so far.
What if you fast forward the TV? There's no way he was at Tyreek Hill's speed.
Well, at some point, not consistently, but at some point during that run, he was.
When he was falling down, they clocked him.
When his body blew him over.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, we got props coming to you. We're going to talk NFL. We're going to talk World Series, and we have something special for you guys. Matt sent all of us one prop to handicap, and we are going to handicap that prop and release what all of us think about it. That should be fun. Get your questions, get your comments in. If you want us to talk about a certain game or a certain player prop or team prop, anything that you have, get those into us on YouTube. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and use the promo code all week ALWEEK. That gets you all three of us. That gets you 1 week of plays for, I believe it's $69. So hell of a deal. Let's talk World Series. Matt, we got the World Series going on tonight. Series tied at 1 apiece. Has the World Series been kind to you so far with props?
I would say it's been okay. I'm 1-1 so far. I hit the Kershaw strikeout prop over in game one, and then I lost my Mookie Betts over total bases prop. I do have a free play up on sportsmemo.com, and I'll talk about it real quick. I took the over for Walker Buehler's strikeouts. It's 7.5. It's a little higher than I'd like, especially for a guy who could go 5-6 innings. But if you look at the Rays' last couple games, I broke it down in the free play. They have struck out 7, 10, 11, 13, 11, 11, 9, 13, 13 overall. And the starting strikeouts, now we won't count yesterday because it was a bullpen game, but Kershaw at 8, McCullers at 7, Framber Valdez at 9, Greinke at 7, Urquidy at 4, McCullers had 11, Valdez had 8. So Rays are free swingers. It's a free play because I'm a little worried about how deep Buehler will go, but I'll take a chance on the over 7.5 strikeouts for the Dodgers starting pitcher tonight.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Andrew, you got anything up for World Series, or are you sitting this one out?
Yeah, it was a great season for me during the regular season, but I've had some trouble with the playoffs, especially with the props. So I've kind of been taking it easy. I had a little giggle from Matt in our pre-show when I mentioned the price of the prop that I'm on tonight. But it's because it's been winning and it continues to grow here, and it's no run first inning. Depends on where you shop. You can get minus 140, 145, depending on where you look. But it's something about the approach at bat. Heading to the plate for these guys, it just seems like even when these pitchers have gotten to a jam, they've been able to get out of it. And some might say, hey, it's better to handicap a full game, or it's better to handicap first 5 innings. But up until a certain point, Andy, you get minus 140, 145 with this wager here. You're literally taking the under on 1 inning.
Yeah, I totally understand. All right, let's get into NFL this week. Week 7, I don't think we have any teams that have big issues with COVID, so we should have a
whoa. We have a offensive line that could potentially not be playing on Sunday in Las Vegas.
Okay, well, I meant games being canceled. We're gonna get to the injuries in that, but I take it from here, Matt, because this is a big deal. This is one of my favorite teams. I followed them since I was a kid. And what are your thoughts on this offensive line?
Wait, you followed the Las Vegas Raiders since you were a kid?
I followed them when they were in Los Angeles and Oakland and LA and now Vegas. And yes, I am ecstatic that the team that I followed is now in Vegas.
I guess we know what mood Matt's in today. He's in a correcting mood.
Yeah, I'm just saying. It's a long time Raiders fan in Las Vegas. Love those Las Vegas Raiders for all of 3 or 4 games this year.
Well, there was somebody on Twitter yesterday that said he was like bad. I was the Lions fan growing up. I was like, okay, so just because you've moved now, you're no longer a Lions fan?
Sorry.
I don't know.
I was a Raiders fan. Sorry, Matt. Raiders fan. All right, let's talk about what we know about the offensive line and how you think it can affect this game. Matt, you got this one dialed in?
Well, it's just what I understand is they will be tested once again on Sunday, and if they pass, then they will play. And to me, look, I know that they're not going to be on the field practicing, but they're at least going to be in the meetings. And I feel like offensive line at least is some sort of muscle memory type thing. And if I feel like it could be a little bit overblown. The worry here is with Josh Jacobs is that Devontae Booker is getting more carries, and they continue to talk up Devontae Booker. Now, there's a difference between talking up a running back and actually using the running back. But if you believe what Coach Gruden says, Devontae Booker is going to see the ball more, and that may eat into Josh Jacobs' carries for the game.
Yeah, and not an easy matchup. I was very impressed with the Buccaneers defense. Matt, we talked about the big injury on the defensive line for the Buccaneers, and they looked really good. I mean, they got the 2 big turnovers, and then the defense took it from there. So I'm guessing we're probably not going to be downgrading the Buccaneers defense a whole lot this week.
It depends. I mean, it depends on who they're going up against offensive line-wise. I mean, the Raiders, you look at the Eagles, you look at the Cowboys who've had the most offensive line injuries, and you see the difference in the starters and the backups. So to me, if there is no offensive line for the Raiders, then you go look at their under for their team points. You look at the over for the sacks. You look at some other things. But if they are out there, then you're looking at something completely different. So it's a kind of a game time decision, which unfortunately means you might lose some value on your props because we know the overs take a ton of money.
And I find those sack props, they take so long for the bookmakers to adjust those. You can see a team get shelled with sacks. I mean, yesterday, I think I got the number at 6.5. I think that's what it was. And Carson Wentz is running around like a chicken with his head cut off every single time the ball is snapped. And I watched the game. One of my good buddies is an Eagles fan, and he said, "Man, I'm an Eagles fan, but I should have taken that bet too, just because with certain teams, unless that number gets higher and higher each week, especially with some of the O-line injuries or issues like that, it's definitely a good wager." And I think as far as these props go, even getting into more and more of the weird ones, like the sacks, like the punts, the more widely available they get, the more fun we can have on the show with some of those kind of bets.
Yeah, I was looking on DraftKings. They had an interesting matchup: Kenyon Drake versus Ezekiel Elliott for most rushing yards, and it was so juiced towards Zeke. And I was like, this feels like a little bit of a trap. And then you saw the line move more and more towards Zeke, and I did not jump on it. But yeah, Andrew, it's a really good point that on some of these DraftKings and FanDuels, keep an eye on the line because sometimes they're really, really slow to adapt. So do you guys want to get into the play that Matt finally sent out? Are you guys ready for this one?
Let's do it, but Matt leading us off.
All right. So we already had a question about it, so I think it's a really, really nice segue. Homero on YouTube asked, without Thomas and Sanders, does Latavius Murray, can he get more fantasy points this week? And Matt posed this prop to us, and we all came to our own decisions. Latavius Murray, over or under 41 rushing yards. Matt, this was your prop. You selected it. What did you come up with? You got over or under 41 rushing yards?
Well, so first off, the MMMHL comes into play. That's mid-major Matt hate level, which is really high with Sean Payton because he's already screwed me once with Latavius Murray. Going back to that Raiders game, your Raiders, remember?
My Raiders.
Your Las Vegas Raiders. In that game, if he had used Latavius Murray more, he would have hit the rushing prop. If you look at Murray's usage, it's kind of confusing. I mean, not last week, 2 weeks ago, he had 8 carries for 34 yards. He's averaged over 4 yards a carry, but he has 8 carries, 14 carries, 12, 3, and 15. So to me, in theory, without Michael Thomas and without Emmanuel Sanders, you would think that they're going to run the ball a ton. They've essentially made Alvin Kamara a wide receiver. So I look at this game log here, and he's gone over that number 3 times. He's gone under that number 2 times. So to me, so far, nothing pushes the scale. Then I go to the Yahoo page, which is the one we talked about with the fantasy points allowed per position. And you look at some of these guys who have done well. I mean, Josh Kelly, the backup running back at the time for the Chargers in week 3, had 43 yards on 8 carries. You look at Todd Gurley, he was really good. You look at some of these other guys. David Montgomery got 19 carries. It seems like if you get enough carries, you're going to be able to exploit this Carolina team. But on the other hand, Carolina's going to have to stack the box against the run. And so to me, what I basically came up with, small lean to the over. It's not going to make my card because I've been frustrated before, and I just don't know what Sean Payton's going to do. He could go out and hand the ball off to Taysom Hill 10 times. We don't know.
It wouldn't shock me.
All right, so Matt, you're a slight lean. So this was your prop, slight lean to the over. Andrew, what did you come up with?
Well, I think it works well, like Matt was saying, how it's not like it's been a definitive. I mean, obviously these numbers are set the way they are for a reason, but looking at the game log, 48, 14, 58, 64, what we've seen here. But I find it super interesting when you look at this number and you take a look here at NFL team opponent rushing yards per game. Carolina at 18th in the league here at this position. And it's interesting, like how Matt said, it's all about coaching style. We could see if they're going to go ahead and stack the line, we're completely screwed out of luck with that one. But I think looking at how it's been a split 3 for 3 so far, 3 and 3, I think I have a slight lean to the over as well. I think this is a lower number. And I think as far as the game plan goes against a team like this, they're going to try and run the ball a lot. And like Matt says, I love the little abbreviations that he's creating for himself with the acronyms today. But it's true. And, I think you look at, I think specifically, just like Matt does with the fantasy stuff, I look at that quite a bit. When Matt sent that prop, immediately what I do is I look at the opponent almost just as much as I look at the actual guy himself. And looking at him on the season, amount of yards or the amount of carries he's getting, if he gets, even an average amount that he's had so far on the season, I think he gets there. The only thing that I would worry about here, you don't want it to, the number right now is what, -7, -7.5, seeing a -8 at one spot, is if this is a closer game. We want this to be more of a blowout, more of a marginal game, and that way we can see the ball get run a little bit more. But I think 41 yards is a little bit generous here in this spot. And looking at a team like Carolina, like I said, ranking in the 18th spot as far as, the opponent rushing yards per game, 41 is a little bit small.
All right. I am leaning under. I think the Saints, they absolutely ran all over the Lions, who are a terrible run defense. And then against the Chargers, they're a top 10 run defense, and they only ran the ball 25 times total. So I think Sean Payton and Drew Brees kind of adjust to what defense. They're 18th, as you said, Andrew. I think without Emmanuel Sanders, he's on COVID reserve, and Michael Thomas, I have the under over half a teammate punched in walkthroughs tomorrow. That'll be on the client card. But Michael Thomas
that's the game of the year, right?
I mean, Michael Thomas now has a hamstring injury, so he has an ankle, a punch, and a hamstring. And I think it's going to be easier for the Carolina Panthers defense, who has gotten better over the last few weeks. I think it's going to be a little bit easier for them to stack the box. And if they put that extra linebacker in there, Brees is going to be quick to audible out. He loves those short little dink and dunk passes. I am going to lean the under, but it would not surprise me if Latavius Murray hit the over on rushing and receiving by getting a couple of little dink and dunk passes. So I see a Carolina defense that's improving a little bit. I see a Saints offense that adjusts to their opponent. So I'm going to lean under on the rushing yards.
And by the way, if you like that 7.5, I don't know how much longer it's going to be out there with Thomas officially listed as out. Emmanuel Sanders is out. We know how noodle arm Drew Brees is. And people like Carolina. I like Matt Rule. I think he's done a very good job. So if you like that 7.5 or that 8 that Andrew said, you probably should take it now, because I don't think it's going to be there much longer.
And just quick follow-up for you. I'm curious, so if you dislike that for Murray, does that mean you talked about how you'd maybe combine the receptions or the yards both ways? You look more so towards a guy like Kamara then? Would that mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Would that be more like, hey, I don't think it's gonna be as much of a split? Because I find it very interesting looking at, and I think, Matt, you've discussed these secondary options a lot more than I've ever looked at. And I think it's interesting, especially in games like this with a spread like this, because as you guys know, a strategy I've looked at is looking at teams like this with the spreads where you think they're going to get up by a good amount, or at least the books think so, and then they're going to run the ball. But obviously the numbers dictate it. So are you predicting Alvin Kamara is going to just get tons of more touches? Matt? Or sorry, Andy?
Oh, me? Yeah, I think Kamara gets used a lot. I think he's a much better talent than Latavius Murray. That's not breaking news. I think he's a much better, catcher out of the backfield. And I was looking at snap percentage, and I mean, Murray hasn't gotten over, I think he's been over 23% of the snaps on offense one time this year. So, it's not really a split. He's not on the field as much. And I mean, let's face it, who would you rather have an open space on the screen pass? Kamara or Latavius Murray? And I think this game's closer than people think. I think Carolina's a little bit better. I think people are sleeping on them a little bit. I like what Bridgewater and Mike Davis has done. So I think it's closer. And I think when push comes to shove, you got a close game, you're going to put Kamara in, not Latavius Murray. I don't know, Matt, you disagree?
Listen, I mean, I've had the Kamara. This is where the age-old question, what we've discussed on this show, receptions versus yards. I think Kamara sees 7 or 8 receptions, and the question is he going to break one to get you the yards? So which is the safer thing? Is it the receptions or is it the yards? I think it's the receptions here, but you guys have leaned more towards yards than I have so far this season.
Yeah. We got a question
in a game like last night, though, Matt, I was definitely on the receptions. Sorry about that, Andy, but in a game like
fine.
that, I'm not looking at
Scott or for anybody.
No, for anybody. I had Fulgham over receptions, and guys like that, I'm not taking a chance of them to have a big catch just to get the receptions. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it's more like, yeah, this guy's going to get fed. I don't know how well he'll do when he gets that pass, but I know he's going to get the passes. Does that make any sense?
Oh, no, I understand. I mean, that was the first time last night, all season, that I've ever taken an under. by taking the Boston Scott under rushing yards, but that's only because I know my team. And so I know what Doug Peterson does, and I know that there's Clement and Huntley, and now they think Wentz is Lamar Jackson. So he wasn't going to get a ton of yards. So to me,
he did run the ball a lot, Matt?
He ran it too much. I don't understand why. You remember that play in Tecmo Super Bowl where they used to have the quarterback, it was QB Eagles, who's a lot faster than Carson Wentz, and they just used to run it. Well, I think that's what Doug Peterson's playbook looks like, is QB Eagles right there. But that's why I took it. It's because I know the team. And this is why you guys would say, Andrew knows more about his Packers, and then Andy knows more about his Las Vegas Raiders than us did. So then they would know more about their own team.
We had a couple questions.
I didn't. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry,
I was going to say, well, we had some questions about Giovanni Bernard. So I'm going to get your thoughts on sometimes these running backs come in and sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. Giovanni Bernard has proven himself to be, I don't know, one of the better backups talent-wise around the league. They're playing Cleveland. Cleveland is fourth best rushing defense, but Giovanni tends to do most of his damage out of the backfield. Andrew, you want any part of Giovanni Bernard in any of your props this week?
Yeah, no real thoughts from me. I'll pass on this one.
Matt?
I would say, and I'm looking up now, I'm trying to see on DraftKings if it's up, but I would say he's your perfect candidate to do the rushing and receiving, because you said, I mean, he's a guy who's going to catch the ball more than he's going to run it. So to me, I need the safety of having both of them. In theory, he should. The Browns defense is more than friendly when it comes to that sort of thing. But once again, I would not take just one. I would take the combined thing and hope he does most of the work through the air.
Nice. All right, let's get into the slate of games. We got Panthers versus Saints, Bills versus the hapless Jets, Browns, Bengals, Cowboys, Washington. My God, there's some terrible matchups this weekend.
Just going down the list. Oh my God.
Packers, Texans, Lions, Falcons.
Stop right there.
Yeah.
Kenny Golladay over again. I got to do it. I talked about it last week. Got to do it again. Number's going to be let's see what I had the number at. Over 73.5 receiving yards. Once again, over the Atlanta Falcons. I could just drop the mic and stop right there. But I think that since the injuries, since he had some issues to start the season off, he's slowly progressed, move forwards. And, one thing that definitely I will say that Matt has taught me since being on this show and just discussing props with him is that sometimes these number one guys or the popular guys on the team might not be always the guys to look at because, of course, the coverage and, the opposing coach deciding who to really double up on. But it just seems like it hasn't been there for him. And I think in previous seasons, we've seen that number way higher. Now we're going up against an Atlanta team that couldn't cover us three. I think I'll continuously ride this with Kenny Golladay against a weak pass defense team. I think against Atlanta right now, the odds makers, as we can see, -2 is the number right now for Atlanta, projecting this to be a very competitive game. If it's competitive, I think Galladay's involved.
Nice. Good stuff. So you like the Golladay. Steelers, Titans, that's probably the marquee game. Bucks, Raiders, Chiefs, Broncos, Jags, Chargers, 49ers, Patriots, Seahawks, Cardinals, Bears, Rams. Matt, any of these games jump out to you that you...
No, I'm just kidding. By the way,
thanks for joining. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Could you imagine that just ends the show?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I gotta leave. The doorbell's ringing. But by the way, for Andrew's thing, I've noticed because I had Galladay's receptions on my list last week. Galladay's not one of these wide receivers. He's not Adam Thielen. He's not one of these other guys who gets a ton of receptions. So to me, Andrew's right. The only way to go is with yards with that one. I mean, I'll go with the stationary thing. That we always do is the Jets. I like to focus on the Jets here. The under for the team total, it's 16.5. Maybe there's a 17 out there. If you can find a 17, we take the under there. And to me, it's either, and we'll be interested to see, I don't think the Jets injury report is out yet, but Jamison Crowder, if he plays, you're going over receptions there. And if he doesn't play, then I think Braxton Berrios, who's going to be their slot guy, the last 5 best performances against the Bills have been by Cooper Kupp, Jarvis Landry, and Jamison Crowder 3 times. And so the Bills have a problem with the slot receiver. Darnold's going to play, so that's really going to help. So to me, it's Crowder over receptions as usual, or Braxton Berrios, who you might get a more manageable number on because he's also their slot guy and he'd be the backup.
Well, since we're talking about that game, I have a free play. I was going to do it later, but why not do it now? I have Bills over 13.5 points in the first half against the Jets. They came off that rough loss against Kansas City. Rain, bad conditions. Kansas City had a great game plan. So the Jets have given up 21 first half points to Miami, 17 to the Cardinals, 17 to Denver, 17 to the Colts. 21 to the Bills back in week 1. They've never held anyone under 17 points in the first half. I love getting a team that came off a kind of a rough loss and talk about what a great way to rebound. So I like the Bills to get back on track, get off to a really, really good start, especially with a banged up Crowder. I think Darnold's going to play. I don't care. I'd obviously rather have Flacco in there for a Bills prop, but I'll take the Bills over 13.5 first half points. Quick start for the Bills. I already have that locked in.
Well, see, also, by the way, the quarterback wouldn't matter for your prop as long as Josh Allen's playing. You could have Kenny O'Brien at quarterback. It won't affect your prop.
I'm just thinking that Darnold can extend some drives, maybe a few extra minutes. So like with Flacco in there, it's 3-and-out city. So on
the topic of both Darnold and Flacco, good little segue here. Are either of you guys a fan of betting quarterbacks to get INTs? I was discussing this with a group of friends yesterday of mine, and they all gamble as well in NFL. And it's sometimes, you look at these prices, right? And you think to yourself like, oh, geez, that's a minus 160 scratch, right? If you bet both INT props yesterday, you could have bet double or one quarterback to get a fumble or something like that. So that's what you got to ask yourself. And I we hate using this word value all the time, but is it something that you guys have ever done? Because I have found it so hard to do. Like last week, I was literally close to giving the client Baker Mayfield to get an interception. I was like, no, that's going to look stupid because it's bad odds. And I hate looking for a prop like that. But at the rate that this season is going in, we are seeing interceptions at the most untimely manners at a consistent fashion, and not just for poor teams, for a lot of strong quarterbacks. Like, is something you guys are interested in at all?
I'll jump in real quick as somebody that lives in Indianapolis. You can always count on Phil Rivers to throw really bad
he's one of the guys for sure. Yeah. But not even joking, Andy. He's someone I actually bet on this year to get an INT.
Yeah. Matt, you play the interception props?
I will never play it when it's a yes minus 170. I mean, because look, there's a chance Carson Wentz has a game where he doesn't do it, and then it's just kind of the price sucks. So to me, the only time I ever do that is when I'll have a no that's in a reasonable area. Okay. If there is a guy like, I don't know if there's ever a Pat Mahomes one where the no is in plus money or minus 110 against certain teams. There's just certain situations. I rarely take a yes because what happens if Carson Wentz last night gets hurt? What happens? And then your bet's going to win most likely. But to me, it's not worth it at that price.
Yeah. You have to win so many times for it to be worth it. 1 or 2 losses screws you over.
We got a question on YouTube talking about the Packers team total. I'm looking at right now. It's over 29.5 against the Texans. Texans give up a lot of yards. They give up a lot of points. I don't know if I would go over 29.5, but I would certainly look at Aaron Jones and the rushing total. Houston is dead last in rushing defense. I believe they're giving up over 177 yards a game on the ground. They're just awful. Matt, any thoughts on 29.5? For the Packers team total over?
So in theory, I like it. I rarely take the high totals over. I really did. That's just something about me, and I probably need to change that. But I mean, in theory, I do like it. It's just, if there's certain situations where, what if something happens and things like that. I'm more apt to take bad teams to not do anything than good teams to do a lot of things. I don't know. It's just kind of something weird about me. But yeah, I would look at it more. The Texans defense is terrible, and Aaron Rodgers isn't going to have 2 bad games in a row. The question is, if Aaron Jones doesn't play, how much does their offense lose effectiveness and things like that?
I have a play on the other side here with the team total under for the Houston Texans. I think that as much as we can say how poor the offense was for my Packers last week, their defense wasn't, extraordinary either. And I actually just realized this myself, which is something I should have already known, I guess. And it's always been a stat that an Aaron Rodgers-led team has had. But he bombs the ball downfield. But actually, they're at the top of the league and actually, how long their drives take. Let's see what the number is. 3 minutes and 29 seconds, averaging 44.5 yards per drive. And a lot of people on a lot of different websites are worried that type of stuff throws off a guy like Tampa Bay comes in there and handles them. Now it's like, okay, yeah, they're in bounce back mode. Let's grab Green Bay's over. How about the other way? Their opposition team total under.
That's a great way to look at it. Love that stuff. Matt, you and I, you've deemed yourself president of the James Robinson fan club. I deemed myself vice president.
Not anymore. You can have that role.
Starting to fall up. Well, but this one I say, we were really high on him and he cashed some bets early. Do we flip it? Do we now start playing unders against him? Have teams figured this out that Gardner Minshew is absolutely terrible?
Well, I'm not playing it this week. This is the case where, we tell everybody to take the rushing and the receiving over. I would take the under for one of those two things, not both, because then you could get screwed by the total. But I mean, it's been disappointing. I had him on my consideration list. I kept him off, which was good, but it's certainly something to look for that James Robinson is not doing what they're supposed to. And then don't forget, Raquel Armistead's going to come back at some point. And if they get rid of Gardner Minshew, then that changes the offense. So I'm staying as far away from Jacksonville for the most part in terms of their offense.
Makes sense. Yeah, it's tough to take overs on really, really bad teams. Andrew, I think the marquee game we talked about, Steelers-Titans, you got the Steelers with an incredible run defense. Titans, obviously, their offense runs through Derrick Henry. I was looking hard about playing Derrick Henry. I believe his total is around 82, 84, depending on what site you look at. I really wanted to play the under. For me, I think the Steelers, this is kind of one of those bragging rights games where they're just going to say, no, you are not going to run all over us. We're going to make Tannehill beat us. And honestly, Tannehill can beat you, but do you have anything for the Steelers Titans?
Well, how about the Tannehill rushing props over? How about something like that? Take attention away from the rushing aspect of the actual running backs and look at him, because it seems like he's not really a guy that's too afraid to go out there and get on the move. And I agree with you. That term marquee matchup, I think with the props, sometimes for me, as you guys have noticed, I've been more of a prop player, just trying to expose these huge marginal matchups, like how Matt's been loving under team total with the Jets. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I haven't really, anytime I've been betting props, it hasn't really been on these like pick'em style games or really close ones. But I agree, out of every other opportunity like that, this Steelers team has been getting so much flack, Andy. I know this isn't really a point spread or who's going to win the game type of show, but geez, man, like they have not gotten that much credit at all for what they've done so far this season. And now with the good schedule coming up ahead of them, it's a good challenge. But, just based off what you said and something I've looked at, I'd actually am interested in looking at that Tannehill rushing yards over.
Chance on YouTube says, just breaking, no Jamal Adams for the Seahawks. Lauren, I don't think the hole in the Steelers defense, they can stop Henry repeatedly. Matt, any thoughts on Derrick Henry? Is it going to be part of your card this week?
We'll see. I mean, the Devin Bush loss is pretty big for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I had Derrick Henry's over last week. That, of course, won by quite a bit after that long run. I'll be interested to see the Jonnu Smith. If Jonnu Smith is healthy, that makes a difference. Maybe Anthony Ferkster, you get some decent props on him, because we could tell that Ryan Tannehill likes the tight end. Heck, Ferkster is getting catches even when Jonnu Smith is out there. So to me, I'm looking more at the tight end here to see, because Pittsburgh at times has had problems defending the tight end this season.
We got a question about the weather. Chiefs Broncos, looks like it's snow. I think everyone tends to go, oh, bad weather under. In my experience, the only weather to me that really affects me taking unders is wind. I feel like with rain and with snow, the defense has to play on the exact same surface as the offense, and I feel like sometimes the line gets inflated towards the under, and it's a great time to play the over. So Chiefs Broncos, Andrew, they're playing in the snow. How does that affect your handicapping?
A lot of time it's the same as you. Obviously, it depends on the matchup and things of that nature. But I think with this Denver team, you look at all the games that they've played and the total that they've seen, and now looking at this one, what is it, 45 guys? Come on, even involving a team like the KC Chiefs, that's one that I'm looking to go over the total in general with. But I might look at some completion props in that one as well. I'm going to take a look at it right now as we speak, because a couple of those are coming out. But let's be honest here. The Broncos are going to have to pass the ball a hell of a lot to have any kind of success against that team. So that might be what I'm looking at. But at the same time, the funny thing is I've looked at against the Chiefs is that teams have always started the game trying to run against them, and then they realize, okay, maybe this isn't a good idea. I'm going to have to throw the ball. So I might be looking at some completion props there. As far as the weather goes, I'm the same as you. It depends on the team, but let's be honest. I don't think Mahomes is going to be bothered by a little bit of weather. However, if you're looking at the receptions versus yards, I think, Matt, this might be a good one to go with, just receptions over yards with any type of weather inclination.
Yeah, to me, it's more of the possession receivers, and it also depends on if it's snowing during the game or if it's snowing, if it's afterwards, in which they clear the snow off and it's, just a frozen field. So that makes a difference. But to me, it's the slot guys, it's the tight ends, and it's the running backs potentially, because they know what direction they're going, whereas you don't. So if they make one cut and lose you, but we'll see. I mean, is Le'Veon Bell going to be ready? According to DraftKings, there's no Clyde Edwards-Helaire props out yet. And there was talk that Le'Veon Bell still won't be ready, still doesn't know the playbook. If that's the case, then you look at the Clyde Edwards-Helaire props. Although it's very interesting. I don't know if you guys noticed in that game, what was it, Tuesday, that Edwards-Helaire was not catching passes. He was doing, it was Darrell Williams, who was doing a lot more of that. So that's something to look out for in the future if he's not catching passes as much as he used to.
Well, as a Clyde Edwards-Helaire fantasy owner, the lack of touchdowns is nothing short of infuriating, especially when he scores. And then they take it back and lob another one to Kelsey. That was good.
And as a Kelsey owner, I love that.
I love that as well as a Kelsey owner.
I got to say, I think when they signed Le'Veon Bell, we talked about, I don't want to rehash it a lot, but I don't want Clyde Edwards-Helaire getting 30 carries a game. He's not Derrick Henry. I like that they're not using him as much as they are, because I think he needs to be fresh. So I think a lot of people can get frustrated when he comes off the field and, Williams comes in, but you want him fresh for the whole season. I think it's going to help us out in the props. He looks great when he runs. That offensive line is getting better and better each week. So I'm not going to be scared to play Clyde Edwards-Helaire over rushing. But you're right, Matt. He's not getting the receiving yards. And I thought that was one of the big things when they drafted him. It was, oh, man, those screen passes. Oh, those dump offs. Really, really going to help the Chiefs. But they haven't utilized it. But that's why Andy Reid has a Super Bowl ring and we don't. Andrew, any other games that you're looking at pique your interest?
I think everyone should just expose the Dallas Cowboys every single week in every single way possible. But I'm looking at Gibson, not just because he's on my fantasy team now, rushing yards over, also to get into the end zone. I think it's not even that great of a price, though. I think it was like plus 125, so it's obviously pretty favorited number there. Let's be honest, there's so many issues with this Dallas Cowboys team, and I love betting against teams with issues, and I love prop betting against teams, not just issues as far as losing, but locker room issues. Locker room issues means lack of communication, and lack of communication means that they're not fixing things as they should from one week to the next. And I think that there's a lot of pressure on them, and pressure cannot always be a good thing. So I'm looking at Gibson here for this Washington football team, and I think that you can look at some of like their short receiving type kind of guys to get involved as well. I think they keep it close against the Cowboys, and I'd love to see them beat them.
Yeah, one of my props last week was the Cardinals over first half points. I love these first half point totals.
Where are you betting those? Are those from FanDuel?
DraftKings. You got DraftKings. Most sports books.
Pinnacle has them too.
Yeah. I gave out the stat. They're on the road this week, but at home, the Cowboys are giving up over 26 points in the first half a game.
So, wow.
Yes.
And that's going on my client card.
Yeah, that one's free. I'll give you guys that one. So, yeah, just crazy.
Have you bet a team total over that's not in the first half this year, Andy?
What's that?
Have you been betting full games, or it's only you've mostly just been doing the first half?
Only the first half. The Ravens over 13.5 yards, and then whoever's playing the Cowboys. I'm giving away all my secrets. Worst marketing ever. I don't know why my sales are down.
I honestly wonder what that Drew Lock completion prop is going to be. Matt, do you have any idea what that number would be?
Drew Lock's completions?
Completed 10 of 24 passes for 189 yards, 2 interceptions against the Patriots. And ding, ding, ding. Who's your next opponent after the Patriots? A team that you're going to have to run or throw the ball quite a bit against. Like, what are you thinking for that number?
Well, let's see. So DraftKings has 222 passing yards, 222 and a half passing yards. Here it is, 19.5 with a heavily juiced over.
Nice. I don't like laying all that juice.
Can you choose to avoid the juice and just go 20 or 21
No.
or no?
Most books won't allow you to do that.
Let's see. One guy I wanted to touch on real quick, Matt. Ezekiel Elliott looks terrible. I was looking at his rushing yards. Washington's not terrible against the run. Do you feel like when you have these big name guys like Zeke that we're getting a little bit of extra value on unders on some of these bigger name guys? Because I feel like I want to bet against Zeke. He's just not. He's been getting some yards in the passing game, but not necessarily on the ground. And now that Dalton's in there and looked absolutely terrible, I feel like teams are going to be stacking the box. Do you find value in betting unders on some of these bigger names?
I mean, there probably is because there's a public value to their name and people just blindly bet overs. But if that's the case, so if you're betting unders, I think you need to wait until Sunday to do it. I don't think there's any reason to bet the under for Ezekiel Elliott right now because it's 83.5 right now. I'm guessing by Sunday it could be 86.5, 87 because there's all the people who blindly bet the overs, and I think the books will adjust. And so if you're going to, I'm not. The guy I'm looking at in that game is Dalton Schultz. My free play last week was on the Dalton Schultz receptions and yards because the Cardinals have struggled at times against tight ends, and Washington has as well. So to me, Dalton Schultz is at 27.5 receiving yards, and I like the over there. His receptions hasn't come out yet. I probably like the over there because, by the way, Washington has been decent against wide receivers so far this year. So to me, Dalton Schultz is where the value is at in this one.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, guys, we're getting ready to wrap up. Andrew, anything else you want to let everyone know about? Any props that you want to look at? Any games you think people should keep their eyes on?
I mean, what I just want to let people know, I guess, is that there's always a few that I look at and I try and come prepared for the show to have, but you can't really see them on our screen right now. But most of you guys on this show that are watching should know our Twitter handles and have us on Twitter. And if you do, anything I don't put out on my card, especially for props, I'm usually tweeting out, whether it's Saturday evening or Sunday morning. Those are the kind of bets, like I talked about pre-show, my little rant about the whole volume. If there's one that doesn't quite make my card, I certainly tweet them out. So DM me or check my profile page, and I'll certainly have some out.
Also, I want to plug Andrew's going to join me on Takedown Live, the UFC show tomorrow. We are going to be doing live UFC betting, and it's crazy. The card starts at 10:30 in the morning Eastern time. I don't believe I've ever handicapped UFC in the morning, so it should be a lot of fun.
So what are you putting in the coffee?
I'm putting a little bit of this. By the way, thank you to everybody who checked up on me. I am finally done with my COVID quarantine. I'm actually able to have a cocktail today, and I will have some tomorrow on Takedown Live. I got to say, in quarantine, it is amazing how much research you can do. You can crunch a lot of numbers when you're stuck in your office. So, yeah, join us on Takedown Live tomorrow. We'll be doing in-round betting, live wagering, and just put it on in the background, watch your college football, do all that stuff. Mid-Major Matt, what do you got for us this weekend?
So since usually I get my college football stuff done yesterday, so I'm a little behind. Tonight we'll get the college football card up, and then as always, we like to get the props up tomorrow, so we beat the rush on the Sunday morning. You can find that on sportsmemo.com, and then there's the free pick up there, the Walker Buehler strikeout props, so that's all on Sports Memo, and as you say, follow me on Twitter at MidMajorMatt.
Awesome. Andrew, what do you got for us this weekend?
3-pack in the UFC for tomorrow. But I have a 2-pack specifically for the 4%. 4% run is now 13-2 with a loser last week, and 5% play in the NFL. Just my second 5% NFL play of the season. Nice.
And Andrew and I we're going to talk it out. I'm going to make a UFC parlay. It's going to start with Habib over Gaethje, and Andrew and I are going to talk it out on the show tomorrow, and we're going to figure out who we're going to parlay it up. I just let you know that, Andrew, by the way. So get ready for that. But we got.
I'm finding this out right now, by the way.
Yeah, I'm as good timed as Matt is about sending us the prop we're supposed to handicap for the show today. Good stuff, everyone. That's it for Prop It Up. I'm Andy. I am on WagerTalk. I've got NASCAR, golf, player props, and UFC up right now. That's Andrew. You can find him on WagerTalk. That's Mid-Major Matt. He is on sportsmemo.com. Good luck, everyone. Hope everyone makes a lot of money. Good luck on your props. See you next week on Prop It Up. Have a good weekend.